welcome to the Bones Horror Podcast. This is episode 90. Freddy's Dead, the final nightmare. It really is a nightmare. So we're up to number 6 in our 6 weeks of madness, really, doing Freddy films. We've got 1, 2, 3 more to go, I think. 3 more to go.
Yeah. If we're including the versus Jason and then the remake and then the new nightmare, isn't it? The one in the...
I think in my box set, the Wes Craven's New Nightmare would follow this one.
Yes, yeah.
Is that,
Yeah, although it's not strictly canon, though, is it? It's not,
no.
I hope not. I really hope not.
But then we can do the Freddy Jason film and then the remake. And then
Woof.
Yeah, that's done. So what have we been up to this week? All weekend I've been coaching football and organising stuff, and you might tell some of you if you're watching this how pink my face looks at the moment. I didn't realise how hot it was out there today, because it actually started raining a little bit, because we haven't really had any rain for weeks, not large amounts anyway. So I've got a bit burnt again. On another note, Ollie was talking to me earlier because he's been at work today, and he wondered whether his employers would think of maybe a couple of new milkshakes, Jess.
Sorry, who's that? Wait, hang on. Who's Ollie?
Ollie's Jess's brother.
Right.
And he works with Jess now.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not allowed to say the name because they don't pay me any money to say it. So I'm not
I don't want to get sued.
So Ollie was coming up with some ideas, and that's maybe people at home would like to come up with some ideas as well for these milkshakes. Now, it's all different combinations. Now, he's come up with cheese and onion, which I thought would be quite an interesting
I'm going to
one.
tell you now, I had a guy who kept coming up with the worst combinations of milkshakes.
Yeah.
And I was going to fire him. He left.
You're not going to fire your brother.
He's already talking back to me, right?
Is he?
He's had 3 shifts now.
Oh, what a balance.
And he was late yesterday as well. I couldn't believe
he's
it.
late. Unbelievable.
And
Doesn't
the
know
other
how
one,
to use a mop.
no, I've seen the video. We should put that out there for everyone. It's ridiculous. And he also came out with beetroot.
Beetroot just got removed. It was on the menu.
It was on there. So that's
How
something.
do you mix that?
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking as well.
How's that a smoothie, but a milkshake?
Yeah, no, it was, Well, no, actually, was it? I think it might have been on the healthy menu, so it would have only been with
Would you put...
Look, if you want something healthy, don't go for a milkshake.
I don't think I ever made one. Ever.
What, a beetroot one?
Yeah.
But
that's what
have you done cheese and onion?
Yeah.
No, we have chocolate and chili.
That's not quite the same.
No.
Might go for that. Although cheese and onion,
cheesy.
I mean, the only way that would appeal to me is if it would they got just loads of the crisps and just
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Maybe they put a bag of Walker's cheese and onion crisps.
Shake them up.
There is pickled onion.
Yeah, pickled onion
crisps.
Makes
In a
sense.
milkshake.
Crisp.
No, pickled onions.
That's
Real
less
pickled
appealing.
onions. Oh, nice.
Yeah,
It was
it's
like
only
Monster
one
Munch.
specific. I can't say too much because I don't want people to know where I work. But
Unless they pay us, they're not having any advertising, I'm afraid.
How many people are selling cheese and onion milkshakes though?
Well, the thing is, if they did, there'd be a lot of people who listen to this and might decide to go there because
Maybe.
no,
could
don't.
become quite.
Just crowds of people.
Yeah.
We want cheese and onion. Yeah. So, all right. Jess, what have you been up to?
Working.
Okay.
Making milkshakes.
Okay.
Yeah, I've been watching a few new series and things, but yeah.
Yeah, I was trying to think about what I watched last week. Are you doing the technical stuff tonight or not?
I only have one monitor still.
Oh my
My
god.
other one is here. I don't have a cable for it.
Okay. That's fine. That's fine. So no trailers tonight, I'm afraid. Ewan, you watched a few movies this week, I would have thought.
I did, mainly because it's the London Film Festival coming up. And there's a few directors who I'm kind of familiar with, but I'm not overly familiar with, so I've been watching a few of theirs. Although I did have a I did also have a domestic, not emergency, but an almost emergency, if that exists.
Yeah.
I caused a minor fire.
Oh, Jesus Christ!
Which I've never done before. It was quite a sort of form.
After 3 bottles of wine.
Well, this was first thing in the morning, so yeah, I was 3 bottles of wine.
2 bottles.
Oh no, I'm joking. No, I was having a bagel, right? Or preparing a bagel. And I realized I didn't have any spreadable butter left. Which is
as opposed to non-spreadable butter.
Yeah,
that's what again.
Non-spreadable is really annoying because it can't spread. That's the dilemma with that. So I had to get the block butter, and I thought, okay, I'll put this in the microwave for a bit, so it melts down. I've done it before, and it was thought it would be fine. So I thought, it'd be convenient to use this empty Lurpak tub and just put the bits of butter in there, and then put it in the microwave.
Metal in it.
Pretty much, yeah. It was sort of strange because I was like, okay, this is plastic. Plastic will be fine. I didn't realize that the packaging, like the Lurpak logo and everything, is made of metal. Yeah. So I put it in the microwave. Didn't think much about it for like 10 seconds. Looked over, flames just like reaching up, and I was like, "Fuck, what's going?" Funny. Actually, my first reaction wasn't fuck. It was like. Because this was first thing in the morning and I'm a very lazy person, I just looked at it as like, oh, that's a fire. Let's do something about that. There's also that sort of state of mind where I was just like, because I'm still basically a child, even though I'm 27, I was like, in my head, it means, but maybe the responsible adult. Oh no, I'm the responsible adult in this situation. I have to actually deal with this. And I was like, Dan's just commented. Good evening, all. Kev, Jess, Ewan, and Rambo First Blood, referring to
nice.
Lawrence's red bandana.
Nice.
But then, and then the flames were happening, and I was like,
I like it.
I was like, surely it's too obvious to put water on it, because I think I heard this thing once where like if you put like water, it will just like spread. But I think that's like for bigger like gas or oil fires rather than like really small ones. So I thought, oh fuck it, I'll just put water in there. Water was fine. It was just like, but yeah, it was like for a moment I was just like, oh god, yeah, I'll just set off a small
So you
fire.
put water inside the microwave?
Yeah, I had to clean it up, and it was all soppy and wet, and I had to clean off the burns and stuff. So that was my first fire. First fire, yeah, it was all fine, and the tub had melted to right to the ground. The thing, it was funny looking at it afterwards. It was just flat.
The microwave explodes.
I must remember not to do that. I can see why. You wouldn't think there was metal on the wrapper, would you?
Yeah, I thought it would be fine. I had no anticipation of a fire at all. It just happened.
Just go in with the notion that you want to start the fire. Just like, come on.
I want to start fires.
Larry. So
honestly,
you've been fighting your way through the forests of America.
I started with the Predator and moved on to no, I haven't been, haven't really done too much. Watched a fair few things. Didn't start any fires.
That's good.
Yeah, no. I went to Notting Hill Festival.
Oh wow!
I saw
Never been there.
From your stories. Yeah,
yeah. It
was really good. Crowded though.
It was fucking hectic.
Yeah,
it was hectic. Very good fun, but yeah, it was just hilarious. And we were on the way in, and we got the bus in, which was a few stops away. And as we were going in, there was just this group of girls who not only repeated one line of a song over and over and over and over at the top of their voice on this bus, but then I was nearly cracking up because one of the girls turns to her mate and goes like, "I've never dropped acid before. When do I do it?" And her friends that basically was just there like basically saying like, "Don't be a pussy, just do it." And I was just on this bus like, fucking hell. God. So that was interesting. Yeah.
Well, they weren't friends of yours or anything.
No. They were
No,
just
people.
sat on the bus. Just people, yeah.
Well, my son's kind of referred to everyone in life as NPCs. What does that mean?
Non-playable characters.
So everyone they see,
It's an NPC, yeah.
That is worrying. That is a worrying thing to hear.
Yeah.
It's almost like he believes he's part of a simulation.
Yeah,
I think they do. But then they start acting like them. And then they start walking into walls and stuff and doing this weird... It's like... Yeah, I can't keep up with it all. Like.
Yeah.
To be fair, when he's at work, he seems like an NPC that's malfunctioning.
Yeah.
And doesn't quite know its purpose. That's kind of how he works.
Isn't that like the plot of? Isn't that Free Guy? Isn't that film that Ryan Reynolds is in? Wasn't the plot of that?
I'm saying that.
Great film.
I know.
So funny.
Yeah.
So, shall we talk about this film that we
Sure, if we have to.
watch? Who's first watch? Who we got here on the first watch?
Yeah, first watch. Yeah.
So it's Ewan and Jess as usual. First watch. Freddy's dead. 1991 is the sixth film in the series. 89 minutes long. Directed by Rachel Talalay. I think she's Tank Girl. Ghost in the Machine. Some others. I don't really know much about it, to be honest. Robert Englund as Freddy. He was in Nightmare on Elm Street, the first one, and the second one, and the third one.
All of them.
Yeah, I was
All
just
of
about
them, pretty much. So all of them, except the remake. Was he in that? I don't think he was.
No.
I don't think he had Did he have a guest slot? Sometimes they do that, don't they? Lisa Zane as Maggie Burrows, which was Freddy's. Shall we give spoilers already?
I mean, the
Daughter.
title does anyway.
Daughter.
Yeah,
And a budget of 9 million and a box office of 35 million. And what do you think the Rotten Tomato score was on this one then?
It can't be good. I'll be disappointed if it was a high
20.
score.
It's in the 20s. I'd want it to be
it's
in
in
the
the
20s.
20s.
27.
I'll go 28.
20. Jess?
you got two there. Two options.
Jess was just about to say something else, mate.
24.
Yes.
Oh,
24%.
lucky guess.
Is that the lowest rated one?
Yeah, Jess wins a copy of the shit version of The Evil Dead. So well done, Jess. I'll send that off to you.
Well done.
So it's 10 years from now. Freddy's returned and killed every child and teen in Springwood, which is mental in itself.
Shit. It's just shit.
Yeah,
Wait,
so
can I just talk about that opening? That opening really confused me. It looked like something out of like, what is it that a bit like that John Carpenter film where they're all on the island. Is it They Live or something? Not They Live. It's
Oh
what's that?
God.
Escape from New York. Sorry. Escape
Yeah,
from New York.
yeah.
It sort of had that feel of like this weird sci-fi dystopia where it's just like, and I assumed actually, since I probably didn't read it properly, I assumed that it was like every teenager in America, and I was like, hang on, so there's only one teenager, and then I was confused because then it turned out there was just one teenager in this one city, and it was just I mean, yeah, this film got off to an immediately rocky start for me.
Yeah.
why was it filmed weird?
Why-
Weird.
Well, I don't get it. I was going to ask. This is a technical question. You three would probably know. Some films just look different. Whether it's the lighting, whether it just didn't look like the other films.
It did have a kind of almost like a music video flair to it.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Maybe it's the lighting and stuff. It just looked different and felt different.
Probably the
It's the
care.
dark.
Yeah, probably the care. Like probably people just didn't care.
Do you think so?
I
I
wouldn't
thought
be
it looked
surprised.
a bit cleaner in parts, but it just didn't look like a movie.
It might be a camera thing. They might
Yeah.
have just changed the camera. Might be an updated camera.
And also it was weird, wasn't it? Because I think the last 15, 20 minutes was shot in 3D or
Yeah.
which was a
that's what
galactically wrong decision. But they were just using the gimmick to try and. But it looked. I mean, it's hilarious seeing any sort of 3D film made from the 80s put onto a normal the sort of the small screen, the modern screen, because it just looks awful, and it's like it almost looks like a normal shot, but they'd like draw attention to it through like almost like forced perspective. And it's like
that's the thing I was going to say.
Glasses? Is it the red and
old
blue? So I've got some here because I've got some films. But these big old, you see them?
That's cool. Okay.
Big old things. So I've got some old movies. I like to.
But would they wouldn't work at a cinema, would they? With the modern 3D?
Not with modern stuff, but like the old stuff where it was the two colours. I think even one of the Jaws is like that, and can't remember. There's a few films I've got like that. Even some modern ones actually. There's one called Found Footage 3D. You can get it. You know. That's on Shudder, actually. Found Footage 3D.
Surely that's like an oxymoron.
Actually, I've got a sign. I've got a sign picture on my wall.
Who takes film in 3D if it's just found?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Although there was a trend for like 6 months of people selling like 3D camcorders. I think like around the time that Avatar came out, it was like 3D was like the big thing, and then they sold like 3D camcorders.
It's like what the whole TV thing, isn't it? Because when Avatar came out, everyone was like, oh, and they started doing Blu-ray, 3D Blu-ray and all that, but you hardly see that anymore.
It's classic.
I liked all that. I like a good 3D film.
But it happens a lot like through like film history. I think maybe since the 60s, where it's like, oh, popularity of 3D, oh, it goes off again. Oh, popularity, it happens like every decade or something.
I just love though, like how, like especially in this film and other films, like when it's old 3D. And obviously you're watching it and it's not in 3D, but as you said, they try and do stuff to like put the notion forward. So like you'll have characters that go like, whoa.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you're just watching it like it's so dumb.
But I mean,
so the girl wears 3D glasses.
Yeah, literally, they're Freddy seeing glasses.
Well, that was like an indicator for the audience to put on their 3D glasses.
Fuck's sake. So that's what that was.
It's hilarious. It's hilarious as well. So I watched behind the scene with an interview with the director Rachel Talalay, who said that I think, to be honest, she's a bit embarrassed by the film, but she explicitly said she didn't like the 3D element of the film. It was just a thing that the producers wanted.
Can you buy that then?
What?
Because I don't think it's like, it might well be on my Blu-ray. I'm just looking now. Whether there was a copy of that version.
Maybe if you found an old copy.
Yeah. Maybe. I think I think I saw somewhere that there was, when it came out on Laserdisc, it was 3D. Like you can watch it in 3D as an option. But it was an awful idea, because it also like, she explained that spoilers for people, Freddy dies in the end, and she said that part of why she couldn't make it as spectacular as it perhaps could have been is because they were compelled to put the 3D element to it, which added a technological difficulty, because they had to align everything according to 3D. So it's difficult. So it's perhaps not as great as it was meant to be, because they thought this gimmick would be great.
I feel the whole film though suffers from that in every angle, because I mean, going back to like its plot with the other films, even though some of them aren't as good as previous, they still follow this at least continuous storyline of certain characters, and then in another one some of them will pop up, maybe they die, but it still follows that same story, whereas this one just throws it all out the window. Forgets about what's kind of come before, and the one of the things that I think makes this the worst one is it just repeats tropes that we've seen already. Like it literally, there are so many different elements that are just shoehorned in that are in the other films that are better, and there's so many cameos from celebrities and people. Like Johnny Depp shows up again.
Yeah, Johnny Depp shows up. That's the one I actually like knew at the time. I was like, okay, that's Johnny Depp on the TV. Apparently, the song at the end was provided by Iggy Pop for some reason. Yeah. But also, I watched the film today.
Fresh in the mind. Nice.
So it's quite fresh in the mind, and it's still at this point it's difficult for me to recollect what the plot was.
It's stupid.
Is there a plot?
So
Yeah.
so there's the last remaining teenager who survived the killings, but he has amnesia. So he goes off and he goes to this sort of, what is it, like an institution or a refuge for wayward kids or kids who've been like traumatized by their parents or something like that. And he sort of turns up with this other group, which includes the bloke from Rat Race and Road Trip. Just a really young version of it. The guy with the ponytail was a stoner and everything.
The gamer and everything.
Yeah. And you've got a girl there who's like really kick ass, and she can sort of, you know, punch people and stuff like that. And then you've got a guy who's sort of partially deaf. And it's funny though, because I
forgot about that kill scene. Oh my
as far as I
God.
remember, they don't get affected by Freddy at the start, do they? Or do they? I don't know. And then their therapist, was it Molly or something? She's a bit skeptical about the whole dream logic of trying to get in the dreams. That her sort of colleague is into all that dream stuff, so he's a bit more of a reliable person. And then they all so then Molly, when getting this kid with amnesia in, she decides, okay, he has to confront his what he doesn't remember by going back to this place. I don't know the scientific basis for this. But then the three other kids are actually in the back as well. And then they in the back of the van and that they're traveling through. And then they go in the van in a sort of road trip, and they stop off at this like weird carnival place. It's funny though, because it's sort of because this is the first during the behind the scenes, it's the first mention of David Lynch that I've ever heard, which is strange considering, you know, this series is all about dreams, and David Lynch is kind of like pretty much the sort of filmmaker of dreams in some ways. So this is almost like the first film that has like sort of direct influence by Lynch, but it's done in such a sort of, I don't know, it's such a lazy derivative, not even derivative, just awful way where it's just like it's intriguing at first. So I was sort of mildly entertained by the old bloke in the Dodgem who's just like swirling around, and it's just like, and they're all like they're only adults there, and they want children, so they're really weird towards the children. And that's a stop off, and then they go off back to Springbrook and back to Elm Street, where they encounter Freddy, and then it transpires that Freddy is Molly's dad, and then they go into Freddy's background. It's a really, I mean, I'm really surprised because Rachel Talalay also said that she built a story outline for this film in order to make sure that she got the job directing. And I'm just like, how was this an outline before it was even a script? Because it just feels haphazard to me.
I think, if I'm honest, I think what the outline was it was almost picking parts from the other ones that were well received. Because to me, the whole like, oh, let's go to a whatever it is facility where there's all these kids is just Dream Warriors.
Yeah.
You know, the you know, psychiatrist who's trying to help them and teach them their ways, just Nancy from you know. So I find that again, it's just reused tropes, but the story that it's trying to tell is just boring. I mean, so its opening as well is so confusing. Like, you know, it does the typical. He's on a plane, and it's like, oh, he you know, gets sucked out, but through the plane, and he's like, oh, it's a dream. And then he's in his house, and it turns out that's a dream.
Into the Wizard of Oz.
Yeah, Wizard of Oz.
Yeah, on a broomstick.
That's amazing. That.
But I was just...
How do they come up with that?
I just don't think they'd try. I think now they just probably just
thinking like every song that they used had something to do with dreams. It's like, oh, is this song got dreams of the lyrics? I'll use that. It's fine. But it's funny because I feel like almost like I'm not entirely sure what the tagline for Nightmare on Elm Street is. But I feel like it's almost implied that, you know, you'll be afraid to go to sleep. I really wanted to fall asleep during this entire film. Yeah. It was just, it was almost unbearable to the point where I had to sort of shift in my seat and turn my head sideways to see if it was more interesting watching it from that angle. It was just, it was unbearable.
Well,
Can we-
I mean, we should preface as well that when the film opens, it brings up a quote and then brings up a quote directly after from Freddy saying, "Welcome to primetime, bitch."
Yeah, it's
Freddy
funny.
Krueger.
Yeah, it's funny that because I actually thought it's funny because I actually thought this would like spell out an interesting movie in the sense that, you know, the last, I don't know, 3 films were quotes by famous people or famous academics or whatever, and we start off with quotes by Friedrich Nietzsche, who's this famous existential nihilist, well, not nihilist, but the existential dark philosopher, and then it's sort of like superseded by this quote from Freddy. I was kind of amused by that. I was like, okay, they're going to do something. They're getting away from all the sort of, I don't know, the academic ideas of Freddy and doing something that might be just more fun. It's not, and it's a shame as well, because I've been watching like the behind the scenes pretty much after every time I watched the film. And Rachel Talalay was always there. She was always like a production assistant or an accountant or someone who was always working behind the scenes, and she was like always being interviewed about her time on set. And I always thought of it like a kind of, oh, this could be a redemption arc. This could be like, oh yeah, the last films were, and then she comes in with all her knowledge about the films, and then she makes a great film, and it'll be amazing. No, in fact, it's probably the worst. I think it's at least on par with the second one. At least with the second one, there's like a certain amount of ambiguity.
I like the second one. I know I've said that before.
Sort of thematically. I still hate the second one, but there are certain things you can look at it.
Yeah,
you can look at it and pick out things that could be wrong. With this one, there's nothing.
No,
I mean, there's literally nothing.
and elements in this story, there are parts where you're kind of there like, I didn't want to see that. So, like, you know, later on they have it where they show how Freddy was given his powers, and it's so dumb. He's like in the midst of a fire, horrible CGI sperm things just floating
demon
in
heads,
his,
and
he's literally there
dream
like
demons,
and he's
dream
literally
demons,
there like
sorry.
he's there like, I want the power, and then they're just like, yeah, give it,
that was so annoying. It was also interesting because that wasn't the way it ended wasn't the original ending. I think the original ending was that the dream demons, after they exited Freddy, would go to another vessel or another child who's also traumatized by their father, and then they just sort of go into them, and that would perhaps start a new series. But they were like, no, we want to kill whatever this is.
They also, I think, make a mistake as well, which is quite glaring. When Freddy's kind of telling his daughter, you know, the story of what's happened, and that, you know, face to face and confronting, he says a line that just doesn't make sense. He's like, he goes like, oh yeah, when like my wife found out, then I started killing the kids. And it's like, no, you didn't. It's like you killed those kids, and then they killed you for killing the kids.
Yeah, it's because they took away their kids, so they thought they punished other kids. It was so it was so, because it kind of removes. I mean, not for me. I mean, I can probably watch the first one without thinking of the sixth one in any case, but it sort of removes the fear factor of Freddy, which is another thing actually. Freddy's not scary in this at all.
No,
he is such a wanker in this entire. Just you don't like him. He's like almost like a kid. He's playing that video game scene really infuriated me. We're just sitting with the joystick.
Power glove.
I loved it and I hated it. Like at the same time. I thought it was absolutely hilarious, but he was just kind of like an annoying teenager for the whole film.
Yeah, I love it. I love it how when he gets like they think they've woken him up, and like they go in and try and get him, and he's just like going around the house in really weird like directions, like smacking into walls and punching them, and I'm just like.
What's your favourite kill in this sense?
The ear one.
The ear one.
It's the only one that reminds me of like the clever, creative deaths of the franchise, I guess, which has been an element that at least when you watch them, you might go, "It's the story's not, this one isn't for me," but I liked maybe the creativity of the deaths. Every other death in this film Like, I mean, the one we just explained, it's not. It's just so dumb. It's funny, but it's like that ear one is the only one that I go,
but I have to say that ear one. I mean, again, with all of them, I just feel like there wasn't, similar to the second one actually. It's sort of there wasn't enough threat or fear. And I feel like with the ear one, he was. I mean, the scene where Freddy's just dropping pins on the floor, and I'm just like, what the fuck is this?
Or making missile sounds, like,
and it's like, I just like, yeah, doing the chalkboard and everything.
You wouldn't do that, man. You wouldn't do that, man.
Yeah,
of course he's gonna do it.
And I also just feel like when he's doing that chalkboard thing, I was just like, I know there are people who hate that sound and are afraid of that sound, but for the rest of us, it's just like he's just doing that, and I'm just like, what is it just none of his deaths, or none of none of his try deaths were in any way scary in the way that any of the other films were. Also, he was just weak in this one, I think. Just like you could just like punch him and he'd be knocked down. And I think that's almost deliberate, because they want to try and they want Freddy to die, and so they want to make an excuse for him to be weak in some way.
Well, I was going to want to kill him off. I wonder.
Well, because they don't want to make any more movies because it's too expensive.
Well, but it's also like I think a problem with this film as well is that for every bit of tension that you could go like, all right, cool. Like there's a bit where Freddy like controls all of like that, wipes everybody's mind so that they don't remember the kids or anything, and then this character is talking to the main character, and she's like, it's like, how do you remember? And he's just like, I could control my dreams. It's just like, oh, piss off. It's just like everything has like a quick answer to it that is just feels like it's not thought through. Like, oh yeah, we've got a scene here where this has to happen. It's like, oh yeah, fuck it. We'll just put
it is a bit like that thing. I mean, I'm sure Lara and Jess, you can sort of relate to it, where it's just like when you're writing something like a script or whatever, and there's like a piece missing between like two moments or two scenes, and you need to fill that gap with something that works, and often that's the hardest part of writing. And with this, it's happening all over the place, where they're just filling in gaps with rubbish, and it's just and it's just and interestingly, there were two scripts that were written for this entry. The first one was done by, I think his name's Michael DeLuca, but the other one, which was considered, was written by Peter Jackson, because he was, I think, hot off like Brain Dead and stuff like that. And I think it was initially his one was called like it was called Dream Lover, or The Dream Lover. In which I think it was a bit. I actually think some of the ideas. I haven't seen Wes Craven's New Nightmare, but I think some of the ideas went into that. Where, well, from what I read anyway, it was that I think kids deliberately take sleeping pills in order to battle Freddy in their dreams. Which isn't a much better premise than what we were given, but it's kind of I would be intrigued to see what Peter Jackson would have done with it.
Well, it would have been better. It would have been better than what we got. Like,
yeah, probably,
I just think this is it's a shame, because this one and then the next one are so baffling to me. Like, especially the next one. Like I can kind of get it with this one. I can kind of get with this one, them sitting down and being like, you know, let's just throw everything at the wall. And obviously, a lot of it does not stick. A lot of it, if not all of it. But yeah, like, I don't know. I just feel like they really lost their way. They really lost their way with this franchise.
Well, we're half hour in, 35 minutes in, and I want to hear Jess's thoughts on this, really.
I loved it.
Did you watch it today, or did you give yourself
I
a bit
watched
more
it today.
time? Okay.
I watched it this morning. It was all right. I thought the kill scene with the ear was kind of, well, not the actual kill scene, but the bit before where he's shoving the cotton bud in his ear. That was gross. Freddy's death, though. What? Like, his head explodes, and then it appears, and then it explodes like 2 more times. And then you've got a little,
the little demon things.
Yeah, and then I
Not
was so
doing
confused because obviously the 3D glasses just appeared on her face.
Yeah,
they're like
yeah.
smiling about it. And I was like, what was that? Where did that come from? Yeah, and then the Wizard of Oz opening.
I quite like that opening. I thought it was funny.
Yeah, I thought some of it was quite
but
funny, but it
got
wasn't really.
worse. It got worse.
It's funny you say.
Yeah.
It's funny you say about the humor as well, because actually my dad, he might be listening. I don't know. But
Dad.
he often, because he's a fan of horror movies, especially sort of Nightmare on Elm Street series, and he's like cited to me for years the line that Freddy says as he's about to die, which is a sort of like shrug and saying kids, and then he dies.
Yeah.
And he says he really likes that. He said it's like his favorite scene in the whole thing. And so I was always waiting for this scene to happen, and when it did, I was just like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
No offense, Dad.
I actually, it is quite funny that him acting like a dad all of a sudden.
Yeah,
that's what it was, and it's.
But I just find as well, like the whole ending, they're like, they go and do what they did in the first one. Basically, they're like, oh, we have to pull Freddy out. He pulls the bit of his thing, and I'm like, okay.
Well, that worked, didn't it, before?
Yeah, but then this is where I have an issue with what they've done with the franchise after, because in that first one, it's very much, as we discussed when we did the first one, it's kind of like ambiguous of like, oh, is she dreaming? Is it, what's happening here? And as we said, I love it how it just hand comes through and pulls the mum through like the little door, and it just ends, and you're just like, oh. Whereas this, I just find that, like you say, I said earlier, I just think that they sat there and went, we need to fucking just end this now, don't we? It's just like, yeah, we'll just repeat the same thing. We'll shove a we'll go to the sanctuary thing, whatever it is, where the kids are, get all these weapons, like there's baseball bats with nails in them and stuff. There's a bomb. And it's just like, and then he gets pulled through and dies. And I'm just like, I don't know. I think they just got lazy. I just think that they didn't care at this point. Just like end it.
Yeah. I think also it's sort of almost unsustainable because there was so I think people were getting bored of Freddy as well, because I remember at this point, like there was like merchandise for Freddy, there were video games. I think there was even a TV series.
There is, and it's actually it's better than what this film
really
was.
Oh yeah,
well, yeah, definitely.
But I think there was a point where people were just not interested in Freddy anymore, and I think also the slasher movie was going out of style. So I think part of the reason why people weren't interested anymore was because people just weren't interested in the genre. I mean, the films got gradually worse as well, but it was sort of, I think people just weren't interested. So I think they were thinking, since like each film costs more to make than the last one, they thought, okay, since the box office is going down, we might as well just end it here and then whatever.
Yeah.
So we rate this, and move on. Come on, Jess.
4.
Yeah, I'm going to agree. So I'm going to say a 4. And it'd probably be lower if it wasn't for Freddy being in it, to be honest. He was okay. He was okay. I didn't know. He looked very shiny, and maybe it's the way the way it was filmed, but it didn't quite look like Freddy of the other ones. So Ewan. Oh.
I'm struggling with this as well.
I'm gonna give it. It's between 1 and 2.
Oh, okay. We can give it a semi though, if you want one.
I think I'm gonna give it 2 because at least things were shot adequately, and it was like technically it was all adequate. If there was anything technically inadequate about this film, then I probably would give it a 1. But since there isn't, I'd probably give it 2. I think it's the worst in the franchise that I've seen. I was just bored intensely throughout. There was nothing really behind the text, really.
No.
There was stuff about trauma, I guess, domestic abuse, but even that was sort of like half-assed. I think it was just something to get through, get to the end, sort of thing. And Freddy was terrible, and that's another sin. You can't make an iconic character terrible, and it's hard to do that as well when you've got Robert Englund, who's great, is a great actor.
I'm surprised he agreed to do it unless he's that skin. I don't know.
Probably, he's probably doing it for the money, and I suppose also it's hard to say goodbye to a character you played for several years, and that's brought joy in a weird way to horror fans. But yeah, I thought this was an awful movie.
Two bonus. Oh wow.
I'd go with 3. 3, yeah, because well, yeah, with the next entry, obviously it's lower in my opinion, and then there's another one that's even lower than that. So yeah,
I'd be interested to Rotten on the next one. So 3, so we're looking at 3, aren't we? In total, which isn't great.
No,
I just hope one day I would like to see this character done again. I think he's got more stories to tell. Personally, I definitely would watch him more if they could come up with the right actor or the right stories. I think it'd be amazing.
I'd accept like one more with Robert Englund in it, to round it off, and maybe but that's the problem, isn't it? Like, you have to really sit there and think what's a good story, because I don't think people. I mean, yeah, people would go if Robert Englund's definitely back in it. I mean, I know I would, but I don't know. I think audiences are less forgiving now, that they won't just sit through a shit story like this one and then
definitely. So just watch Sharknadoes and things now, don't we? 10 of them. Okay. So we're going on 3. So, Oz, I hope you watched Dan's hot pick. No. Okay. Oh no! I clicked the wrong button. Okay, Dan's hot pick. Here we go. Dan picked a good one this week because I know he's been very busy travelling Europe and other foreign places.
We're in Europe, don't you?
No. Are we?
Well, we're not in the EU, but we're in the
continent. I know we're in the continent. I'm not that thick. Come on. Oh my God.
No, it's part of my trait. Just patronising in general is my.
That's why only hot people watch my hot pick, and he's right. That's why probably tonight I'm the only one who's watched it. He's also put on a new upcoming Hellraiser. Are we excited? I was excited, Dan, until I found that Pinhead was a woman.
In the book, though,
she is. Yes, it is. But is it Pinhead though? Is it? It's someone else.
Sort of I believe it's Pinhead. I want to say it's not. It's not. I haven't read it in fucking ages, but probably someone's going to correct me on this. But if my memory's serving me, it's alluded to of both. Like, I think.
Dan's just written, "I stand for women." Brilliant. Well done, Dan.
He does. Dan loves women.
No, well, physically, he physically stand.
I stand up for women now. What? When they come in a room, or what?
When he's in a car, just so.
I blame you, Dan. You're a real gent. Dan is a real gent. So, I don't think there's a trailer for that Hellraiser. I've seen some images, but is it something like Hulu, or it doesn't look like a massive amount has been spent on it?
No.
So that worries me after the last load of shit we had, the last at least 4 movies.
Well, Clive, if again, you'd have to look it up, but I believe Clive Barker read the script for this one and was like, no. So my worry is, like, when you've got the person who, is so involved in it to read the script. Again, you'd have to look it up, but I believe he read it and was like, no, because they also asked the original Pinhead to come back, and he is open to doing one, but he said no as well. Like he said, I'm not coming back for this one. I want to say it was that script, but he said he's open to coming back, but I think he's waiting again for a good story. So it just worries me because the last Hellraiser they released, I got really excited for that, thinking, oh, we're returning to that world again, and watched it, and it was just a load of bullshit.
Yeah, proper horseshit. So they're not that good after 2, to be honest. They're all a bit crap.
Yeah.
I know it's going to be terrible. I just know. I thought kind of there was a licensing issue and someone got the rights to it and they were actually going to do something really good with it. And obviously they're not. They're just going to fuck it up even more. So anyway, let's move on to Housebound. So it was a New Zealand film for 2014. It's a horror comedy. So a young woman is forced to return to her childhood home after being placed under house arrest, where she suspects that something evil may be lurking. Now, this woman, she is the most miserable, unlikable character you could ever have. She's probably, she looks like she's about 30, but she's a bit of a criminal. She gets caught kind of robbing a kind of cash machine, bank machine. I think they get the money out and they get caught, and then
all the hostages stand up.
No, not like that. Like do you know a cash machine like in a wall? I can't remember whether she was breaking into it. And I think she used dynamite or something along those lines. Which, yeah. Anyway, her friend stitches her up, drives off without her, I think, and she gets arrested. And instead of them putting her in prison, they do something much worse and send her to live with her parents for 8 months, or her mum anyway. And when she's under lockdown, she can't go outside of the house, or her little ankle bracelet thing will go off, and the police will be called. And all this weird goings on is happening, and she thinks it's her neighbour. It isn't. And Larry's just gone.
He was still for a bit there.
Shall I let him back in, or shall I let him just sit out?
Let him rot.
There he is. So yeah, hello. So she thinks it's her neighbour, and there's something weird going on in the house and things. And I don't want to give things away, but if you've seen The Boy, you'll know what's going on. I really like it. It's 98% Rotten Tomatoes, and if you haven't seen it, you guys need to see it, 'cause it is very, very funny as well. The mum is just Emma De Wieta, I think her name is. She's just hilarious. The whole thing. And it's definitely worth watching. One, I think we should visit, all 4 of us, at some point. So I think I found it. I think I might watch it on Tubi actually, but I'm sure it's on Prime or something like that. You'll be able to watch it quite easily. But yeah, it's a horror comedy and definitely worth watching. I don't know what you thought about it, Dan. How many bonus you'd give that? But I'm looking at 8 really. It's very, very good. And I have seen it. I don't own it, but I have seen it at least 3 or 4 times now in the last few years. It's one of them films you can actually just put on at any time and go, yeah, I'll watch that. I'm the same with I Am Legend and silly films like that. I can just stick them on and watch it time and time again. But it's a great film. All right. Hopefully Dan will come up with a new hot pick for next week. So let's move on to what we've been watching this last week or two.
What have you been watching?
No, seriously, what have you been watching?
Right, I'm going to start. No horror films. I think I did watch a horror film, but I've forgotten what it was. So I bought a 6-pack of iTunes for £30, and it was all the Middle Earth extended movies. And I thought for £5 each, they're 4 hours long, most of these, aren't they? Definitely worth a watch. So me and Ollie, because my oldest son, he hasn't watched any of them. So we're watching The Fellowship of the Ring, which is just it's amazing. It's amazing. There are some crappy scenes, sci-fi, special effects at times look a little bit aged now, a little
maybe,
bit. I'm not
maybe
saying
some of the battle
massively.
scenes. Maybe the battle scenes are a bit.
Yeah, maybe I was talking about the ones where they're in. Is it the cave where the dwarfs had lived and had all been murdered, and then they're getting chased out of there by some weird fucking monster, and they're jumping down some cliff kind of things, and some of that's a little bit off, but not.
Yeah, it's not
massively, and that's me being really picky there. Because I don't think I noticed that at the time at all. Like that didn't look great.
No. Yeah.
But it's just in the amount of famous people. And I've met a couple of people there. I've met the king, and I've met the dwarf guy. Like, what's his name? I've met him, and I've met the actual king because they lived in the same kind of villages that we do when I was in Norfolk. So I'd met them a few times. There's 2 or 3 of them from that film live around that area. Yeah, definitely the king.
When you say the king,
do you mean like Aragorn?
The human king. He's dark hair, not Aragorn. No, he was of the original. I'll grab his name for you, but I've definitely.
Not Bernard Hill.
Yes.
Yeah, Bernard Hill. Yeah,
I've met him a couple of times, and I met the dwarf bloke. Who isn't a dwarf at all?
John Rhys Davis.
Yeah, he's not a dwarf, to be honest.
Well, not actually a dwarf, no.
No, I was shocked because
I actually
you're a dwarf, mate. I told him. I saw you on telly, and you look like a dwarf.
Well, I think he's the tallest member of the tallest actor in the Fellowship, so to speak.
He was just trying to trick me, really.
Yeah.
So, and it's my son's loving it, so that's great. If you can actually connect, and he's like, Dad, because I didn't sit there and watch it for 4 hours because we don't have time to do that. But watch it an hour or so at Pop, and he's actually asking me to watch it with him, which is great. That don't happen very often. So yeah, good. So that is what I've watched this week. There's one more thing I'm going to talk about in a bit. I got sent a screener. I doubt you guys have watched it, have you?
Not yet, no.
I think you should. It's only 17 minutes.
Okay.
So, all right. So it's definitely worth a watch, and it's British, and it's well acted, and it's interesting. And it was called Everyone Forgot. I was going to mention this to her because the main actress, has emailed me and offered us a screener, but I said I'd tag her in and things because I think you guys would love it. So maybe next week if you can. It's 17 minutes. It won't take a massive amount of time. Yeah, and that is all I've watched because I've been so busy. I'm sure there's some other horror films I've been watching, but I just can't remember. And I've got sunstroke, so it's hard.
I'll go next because I have a feeling that some of these are going to pop up that everyone's been watching probably.
What's Dan been finding it funny? Probably that movie, Dan's Hot Pick, I reckon. Did you know were you thinking it was a serious film, Dan? Go, Larry. He's frozen.
He was just about to go on a whole spiel.
He probably still is at the moment. He probably still is.
Or maybe that's him preparing. Oh no!
Well, man.
Wait. Oh,
hang on. Come on, Larry. You can do this.
You can do this.
Come on, Larry.
Dear. Oh, I see you, Jess.
There we go.
Here we go. Back in the room.
Wow. Hi, everyone.
Hi.
Yeah. So I watched the new Lord of the Rings. The Lord of the Rings Rings of Power.
That moved on nicely from my pick, didn't it? I'm starting.
First two episodes, really good. I actually didn't have a lot of faith in it when I saw the trailers. I was very much kind of like,
I remember
this doesn't look too good. But I actually really enjoyed the first 2 episodes. I thought that it shocked me in a way. It very much so.
I'm so glad you enjoy it because I watched the first 2 episodes as well, and I was kind of blown away by what I saw.
I might watch it after this. Is there rings in it?
Not really, but
No.
there will be, I expect.
They're setting it up. They're setting it up, aren't they? Like they've already alluded to
the kind of bit before they get the rings and why they get the rings.
Yeah, the rings haven't been made yet.
But I've seen so much like almost needless abuse about it on like social media platforms like Twitter and stuff. They've even Amazon, perhaps wisely, which is strange for me to say as a critic, but they've wisely deactivated user reviews for this series, which I think is actually a wise thing to do, because especially with all the backlash about casting black actors in the roles as well, and when I say backlash, I mean backlash from twats, but it's
Thank you, Dan.
yeah, Dan just said he's got the best beard. Lara, he definitely does have the best beard, but I thought it was great.
Yeah, no, it's it was really good, because I think the trailers didn't do a great job of. I think it showed off like what it was going to obviously be about, but I actually just found that I was watching the first episode, and reluctantly I'm obviously no spoilers, but it opens up on a scene that kind of sets some things up and then continues. But after watching that scene, I was a bit hesitant of like, oh god, here we go. We're gonna go on a tangent here, aren't we? But it actually surprisingly really pulled it out of the bag. I think I'm just excited to see where it's gonna go, because they've set a lot of things up where I'm like, oh, I can't wait to see if they.
I just love that this is like these will be my Fridays now for a few weeks. So it's like I just love. Sorry, I'm moving it onto me.
No.
I just love returning to that world, because I'm a massive Lord of the Rings, but I mean they're one of my favorite movies, and I was really into Tolkien when I was like a teenager, and so I've got this sort of history in my head. You know that thing where like I used to go on like the Lord of the Rings Wikipedia page, and just like research all the history,
watch videos on them as well. Like,
yeah, exactly, yeah. So I love that I've already got a relationship with this history in some ways, and I think they've done a superb job just in terms of like the spectacle of it. Because I think if you're going to do a fantasy, you need to blow so much money on it, and this is I think it's reported this being the most expensive TV show ever produced.
I think it's like $1 billion, which is the same budget as Terrifier 2. So like,
so Dan's just said everyone thrashed Hellraiser, Terrifier 2.
Boom, so Terrifier 2, I cannot wait to see. I cannot wait, and we will review it. This podcast, we'll all have to watch it. I love the trailer. Have you seen it?
Yeah. Saw the trailer.
And you're excited by that, Larry. I can see that.
No, I'm intrigued. I am intrigued. I actually don't think it's one of, you get a lot of B movies that really try and take it in their stride, where people just kind of go like hype it up too much. But I actually think Terrifier is it's not too bad. I think there's one scene in the first one with the saw that's what always strikes me when I think of Terrifier.
Yeah, and we're a podcast that doesn't like vaginas in movies as well. So
no.
I'm British.
Let's not claim that for ourselves.
So who's Irish Plays? Hello, Irish Plays. You really want to say hello, but hi, how are you doing? You all right? Nice to see you in the group chat. Lots of love hearts coming up. There's love hearts and love hearts. So I'm not sure where you are, but great to have you here. Thank you.
Nice.
Maybe you can tell us what you think of Terrifier 2. Or the trailer, anyway.
What else did I watch? I watched Game of Thrones.
I don't want any spoilers.
House of the Dragon.
No. It's all right. I think it's good.
Yeah,
that is literally because it was odd, because when House of the Dragon came out, I was very much like, oh, I know Lord of the Rings is coming out, and I was like, oh, this is going to be interesting. And yeah, for me, I mean, same as you and probably and others, but just I'm a huge Lord of the Rings fan, so it might be a bit biased, but I don't know, I just prefer the way that the Lord of the Rings is kind of going and what it's doing. Not to say that House of the Dragon is bad. I just think that it's dare I say, a bit predictable, but good. And then I watched Everything Everywhere All at Once again because that's now on Prime.
Is it?
Yeah.
I didn't see that because as you said about that being,
it's fantastic. It's been voted. Loads of people like who follow the company A24 have voted it the best A24 film.
Yeah. It's certainly the highest grossing.
It's not horror though, is it?
No.
It's
more sci-fi.
Sci-fi comedy.
Yeah.
And then I watched Nope 3 times.
That's amazing.
3 times.
Have you bought that
then? What's that?
Well, you've been to the cinema 3 times. You must have been.
Yeah.
On your own?
No. I went there
with a lady each time.
times. We're seeing it again. No, I saw it once on my own, once with my dad, and once with Ria. I loved it. I love it. I think it's great. I think it's great. I don't want to. Jess, have you seen it yet? Okay, I won't say spoilers then, just in case, obviously. But I liked its twist. I thought I loved the whole bits with Gordy. I really liked how that played into the plot. I did see like one review, which I can understand because like I can get it. Like obviously, different films and different series and stuff, people are always going to have a different opinion. Like people, I really like the Amazon Lord of the Rings, but I know I've read some reviews that are like, this is horseshit. They've ruined Lord of the Rings.
That was my review, I think.
But
horseshit.
I read a review for Nope after the first time I saw it because I was just interested to see, because I knew some people didn't like it, so I was interested just to see. But it was odd because there was some reviews I read and they were just it stemmed from like I didn't get it, so it's shit. Like I didn't get what this meant, it's shit. There was a really bad review that talked about how there weren't enough white people in it, which I was a bit like I was like, what the fuck?
There are not enough films with white people in them.
But that's my issue with like some of the reviews I was reading. There was like maybe a couple I read that were like, oh, fair enough. That's just a fair point. Like, they didn't enjoy it. They thought it was a bit slow at places. But yeah, no, I really enjoyed it. I thought it was very well made. I also think the cinematography for the night shots is just great. Like, I'd love to know how they managed to get such like that imagery of like a night blue, the night blue sky, like with the moon and everything.
My favourite bit was of that film, other than the monkey.
Yeah,
was the aliens. That weren't aliens.
Yeah, but weren't you? But okay,
I love that.
Can I ask a question?
I'm just trying. Yeah, I'm just
because I mean, if people haven't listened before, I was very ambivalent about Nope. I didn't dislike it.
No,
was my review, but yeah. I just thought like I've only seen it once. But did those see that I'll speak in code because I because of Jess, but
that's what I was laughing at.
The scene with the aliens.
Yeah.
Was it as effective the second and third time?
I found that the first time it was effective, and like it was like a surprise because I didn't genuinely know. The second time, I tried to look out for stuff to support that, and then the third time, was very much just an enjoyment. I mean, I think Ria summed it up probably the same way that you are, Ewan. She was like, it was all right. She was like, it was okay. Like, it wasn't bad. It was good, but just nowhere near as good as I was saying.
Yeah, because also it's I mean, similarly to again for newer listeners of this podcast. Lawrence and I have an ongoing feud about how good Tenet is, the Christopher Nolan film.
It's the best film in the world.
which I rate as 3 stars as well.
I think it's great, but I've got no fucking idea what's going on at all.
But I think the interesting thing is that what they both share is that obviously the director in charge is a genius of some kind. It's just I just don't think it's their best work sort of thing. I don't know. In some ways, I know they're capable of better in some ways. But I do love Nope's ambition. It's just I don't think it
Well, there's stuff that I'd love. Obviously, don't want to ruin it for Jess, so I won't. I'll do it like on another one. But there was just loads of really interesting callbacks and Easter eggs to other real life events of aliens and UFOs. I mean, the ranch is based off of that very famous. The ranch is based off of that very infamous ranch where loads of UFO sightings are. I'll try and speak in code with this, like, but the ending, based obviously with but like obviously with Roswell, and hearkening to that. So yeah, it was good. It was good, and with Tenet. It's fantastic. All right.
Okay.
I'll do a whole I'll do a whole mini episode. Just
we will never do
myself.
that on here.
It wouldn't. It also wouldn't be mini.
It'd be
No, Lawrence, it'd be 3 hours long.
3 hours. my intensive Tenet watch. Sit down
I'll
and
be
come
honest. I had never heard of it before, and I still have absolutely no idea what it is.
It's Christopher Nolan's latest.
You should genuinely give it a watch and just see what you think.
Yeah, give
it is. You can work out what's going on. You explain it to me.
Maybe watch for the subtitles because the sound design and dialogue is.
Yeah, no, that is something I will agree with. The sound design is oddly, just in certain parts. Like, and again, it's not the fact of because of the budget. It's not the fact of like, oh, they've got a dodgy recorder. It's just decisions that are made. Yeah. Like, oh, wear this mask. Okay, now say key dialogue, but be far away and make it muffled. And it's just and the only reason why because I've watched it many a time. But yeah, one of the times I did actually have the subtitles on. I had to watch it.
The second time I watched it was with my parents. My parents couldn't understand the words, so they had to put the subtitles on. So it's just like,
yeah, it's. I think. Rounding it off so that I don't take too much time, but like I just think with that film, I think we've discussed this before, me and you, and anyway. But I think it's very much a. What is this?
Carry on, mate.
What is this? It's our theme tune. God, I thought it was my computer just skitzing out. I was like, fucking hell. Or it was in my head, and like you guys would be like, what? There's no music. Just like
StreamYard has added some very well when you're on a rant, I could just put some
put dramatic music. Put dramatic music. Have you got dramatic?
I don't know if I have.
These are too soothing.
Ambient.
Welcome back to Tenet Watch.
I'm your host.
It's like lift music.
Yeah. Yeah.
You can't do it.
No, I'm trying. Come on. It's just odd music. Okay, what was I saying? Tenet. Yeah, it's more of a film that's like an event. I think that if you're gonna watch it, you should prepare yourself and sit down for not necessarily an easy watch, but a watch nonetheless that'll keep you on your toes and make you think all about what you're watching.
Like a really sort of film-centered ASMR, just sort of.
We should add a new segment in Tenet Watch.
Yeah.
Welcome back to Tenet Watch.
We want Tenet. Oh, that's brilliant.
But yeah, that's all. That's me done.
Yeah. Boys.
Need dramatic music. Yeah, when it's a big rant, I want a suspense.
Rant, like music.
Yeah, like when it's like something that like if it was Jurassic World, that should have been really intense.
I still haven't seen it.
Just oh god, I'd love to hear what you think.
Amazing, Jess. You want to watch that?
I love dinosaurs. I'm going to give it a 10 out of 10 just because there's dinosaurs in it.
There's hardly any fucking dinosaurs in it. That's the problem.
Maybe a 9.
There's literally just like what are they called? The bugs.
Locusts.
In a film about dinosaurs.
If they'd had dinosaurs in Tenet, it'd been a lot more interesting.
Yeah,
just a T-Rex
going backwards.
Ewan, what have you been watching? Good. We are now at the hour 10 mark.
So, last night I went to a preview at the BFI South Bank of Bodies, which is a new A24 film.
Oh wow! Is it good?
I thought it was pretty good, actually.
You said it was brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. If
I said it was brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. And I
I'll
really
see what you've done
enjoyed it.
there. Yeah.
I came out of cinema really, really enjoying it. It's basically about this group of sort of Gen Z 20-somethings who gather in this really nice house to sort of weigh out. There's a hurricane that's approaching, so they decide to have a party at this house and stay inside. And one of the sort of party games that is called Bodies, 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 in which one person is a murderer and one person is the victim, and it sort of carries on from there. But I think that what the film is really about is about the relationships between these different people. It's sort of like there's so much repression, and so much of these people are sort of holding on to feelings which they've never really expressed properly. And it mainly centers on I can't remember their names, but it's a couple who arrive. The one of the women is actually played by Maria Baklova, who was in the second Borat movie.
Yeah, the Russian
that was
girl, right?
I think she was nominated for an Oscar for that.
She's very good in that.
Yeah, I mean, interestingly, she plays quite a sort of kind of an introverted character here. She's sort of she's clearly a kind, whereas everyone else is quite rich and quite sort of American. She's quite working class and quite sort of I think second generation from someone from Europe, so she clearly feels slightly alienated compared to everyone else. But I thought it was I thought it was a brilliant. I'm not sure if it would sustain. I'm not sure if a second watch would be as effective because you know exactly what happens. But I mean, it's so funny, and that's kind of rare because it is ostensibly a horror film, because the Bodies, Bodies, Bodies game turns like real essentially when actual bodies start to turn up, and it's basically a whodunit situation where they're all trying to figure out who's the murderer and in real life, and it ends up that these like anxieties about they have about each other sort of come to the surface, and it reminded me a bit. I saw a film earlier in the year called All My Friends Hate Me, which is a bit more focused on social anxiety in a way, and it reminded me a bit of that, where it's almost like getting loads of like sort of insecure characters together and just shaking them like ants in a jar, you know. And Pete Davidson, it's a bit of a cameo, his role, but he's so funny. He's such a funny actor. I mean, he's always on like SNL and stuff, but he's also very good in The King of Staten Island, the Judd Apatow movie. But he's really good as a kind of like really sort of white pretend liberal who's sort of who sort of pretends he's all liberal, but he's actually really like emasculated, and he's sort of set up against this other guy who's about 40, but he was like apparently in the military, and he's really strong, and he does all these like masculine things. He's like, oh, I could do that, and he's so fun. And that's what's interesting, is that a lot of horrors aren't all that funny, but this one's just hilarious like throughout. And it's interesting because I do wonder how what a lot of Zoomers will make of this film, because I think in a lot of ways it takes the piss out of that sort of culture in some ways, but I think if you sort of look deeper, it mainly takes the piss out of how I'll say this for myself as well, as a sort of like millennial on the threshold of Zoomer. It's kind of how a lot of people use politics to hide their own emotional situations. So they often say like buzzwords like toxic and ally and stuff like that, words which are valid, but sometimes people overuse them to the point where it's just meaningless sometimes.
Is Zoomer the after
Gen Z?
Gen Z.
Yeah, so right. After millennials, so the generation after millennials. I think the threshold is 96, 97.
I like to refer to myself as a zillennial.
Yeah.
Millennial.
Yeah, well, I think I'll call myself, because I was born in 95, so I think I'm technically a millennial, but I'm on the cusp.
I think I'm definitely a millennial.
Can I ask you something? Just we're talking about. I met with Jess the other day, last week. So I went to a music festival, didn't I? But like, I met up with you, and it was Pride Day. Mm-hmm. So there was obviously lots of rainbows and things. I have to tread carefully what I say here. But Jess was here, and there was lots of people meeting up and celebrating, Pride. But when I arrived, there was a guy just stood down the road, and he was wearing a little pink top and a pair of shorts with one of his bollocks hanging out. And, so I didn't think.
Did he know? Did he know that?
He knew, right? And my kids were there, and I didn't like it one bit. And he was like welcoming people into this Pride thing, and the police were there, and they weren't doing a thing. I just thought it was all quite odd. Now, if I was to stand in a pair of shorts, being a straight man with one of my bollocks hanging out, I expect I would get in trouble for it. Would I? I think, and it was just seemed a bit odd, and I wanted to know kind of
when you say the bollocks was
one
out.
of his balls. Have you seen Bad Grandpa, the old John?
Yeah.
But like it was like that.
So literally just hanging out,
and it wasn't a fake one. I don't think it was.
Witness this. I'm just going to say.
So me and Ollie and Alex witnessed it, and it was a bit odd. Everyone else was fine, and there was no weirdness at all. Or it was just this, and he was in his 60s. This man, so maybe he was mentally, something wrong with him. But the police didn't do anything either. It was just a bit odd.
It's a bit odd. I don't think it's a common problem though.
But that's never come up before. Being in,
I'll tell you now. The whole day at Pride, I didn't see one singular bollocks. So
you saw two, but not.
I was only there 5 minutes, and I saw
clock the bollocks straight.
So
it's a great phrase. I clocked the bollocks.
So, I was straight on it, mate. What I mean? Well, I just looked him up and down, really, and I was quite surprised to find.
Do you like the bollocks up and down?
Yeah, it was just a bit weird.
It's just the one. Don't exaggerate, Lawrence.
But it was bringing it down because I don't know why this guy was there. It don't make any sense to me at all, and why he didn't get in trouble for it.
I know we've already asked this, but did he know, or was it just like?
I think he knew. He had like tight kind of shorts on and a pink top, and he was old. He was old.
Are you sure the police noticed? Because sometimes you can get lost in a crowd, and
but they were watching because the thing was you had Pride on, and then you had Southampton versus Manchester United, one of the biggest clubs in the world, and there was thousands of people there. So you ain't got to worry about that, Dan.
Dan just said, how do I wash away the pictures of Kev and his bollocks in my head now? I'm trying to wonder that myself now, to be honest, Kev.
The answer is you don't.
It wasn't. Yeah, don't think about it, Dan. It's not something you want to dwell on. So it was just a strange situation, and I didn't know if that was normal with you youngsters. Whether that's the kind of thing that
I don't make it a habit.
Maybe old people come along and get their bollocks out when you're celebrating Pride. But it was just an interesting thing that happened to me.
Yeah, we have clubs.
It's a horrible thing, to be honest. It was
embarrassing. Saw a lot of nips out, but yeah. No.
Depends.
For women or men?
Both.
Oh, God.
Nips and bollocks.
Is that what we're going to call it next year?
Name that, yeah.
Southampton Nips and Bollocks Day.
Yeah.
We welcome everyone.
It was great.
Sorry.
There's some good music playing and that one.
Yeah, there's some really good local bands that played.
Yeah, it was all good. And there was a lot of people there. There was like more than 20 people there.
Good local bollocks.
It was very sunburnt.
Yeah, it was good.
The bollocks.
I bet matey did. He would have definitely would have got banned. Anyway, sorry to I know you wanted to talk about.
It was a brilliant tangent.
Yeah.
I just kind of reminded me. That's all. So,
bollocks and nips.
You talking about,
so Bodies was good. Was good movie.
Bollocks. Is that what you said?
Bollocks. Yeah. And then as I say, Lord of the Rings: Rings of Power, which I thought was very good. I'm
going to start that tonight.
I thought especially Morfydd Clark as Galadriel was very good. I thought she really carries that character perfectly, and that's a hard character to do, especially after being played by Cate Blanchett, who's pretty much perfect in the original trilogy.
Just quick question: Is this based on a book?
Yeah,
Sort of
well,
mildly,
it's based
on the
parts,
appendices.
of the Simmerate.
It's based on that. Is it? Okay.
Well, I mean, yeah.
Well,
I mean,
not the actual
sort of,
book.
yeah.
It's just based on like Ian said, excerpts of.
Yeah, because I mean,
ages.
Tolkien wrote like extensively about the history about it, and then his son like brought them out as a sort of like edited down version. But yeah, I give Ghostbusters Afterlife 5 bollocks.
We're going to mark it.
what
We're going to out of how many? 10 or 5?
What's a bollock to a boner?
Mm.
Is there a like conversion rate to this?
I don't know.
The bollocks mean more.
There's 2 bollocks, ain't there?
I'd rather. No, I'm not going to say that.
It's 1 ball sack, isn't it? And 2 bollocks.
Yeah. So yeah, Lord of the Rings, very good.
Would you give it 5 bollocks?
I would give it. Yes, I would give it 5 bollocks.
5 out of 5.
That 5 out of 5. Well, I'll probably give it 4. Actually, there are times when there are imperfect moments, but I think overall it's a very good series. I also went back to rewatching Malcolm in the Middle.
I've been rewatching that.
Really,
that's mad.
Because I needed a new sitcom really, because I've got to the point with Simpsons where I sort of reached the threshold where it stopped being really funny. So I'm like, I can't be bothered watching any more episodes. So I thought, oh yeah, Malcolm in the Middle. I enjoyed that as a kid. And it's still really good, and I still think it's a really underrated sitcom for what it is. I mean, especially like Bryan Cranston, who obviously most people know from Breaking Bad, but you forget how great a comedy actor he is, because obviously that's superseded by his amazing drama acting. He's so funny, and with Malcolm in the Middle as well. I think we always used to watch it as a family because we saw similarities, obviously, between each other. I think I was always compared to Dewey because I'm the youngest child, and I can see it. But I also like, because my own brother is a kind of a genius in his own right, and he's sort of knew from a younger age. He's kind of like our version of Malcolm in a strange way. And it's sort of, and you got stuff like the parents. I mean, my parents are nothing like the parents, but you can see like little things that just like with any family sitcom, you can recognize stuff from your own family, but it does it to an extent where you're just sort of like, yeah, I can see that's a bit from my family. But it's so funny, and so many set pieces are so sort of cartoonishly hilarious that it's just
which series are you on?
I'm on series 2 now. I literally started it like I think on Monday, and I'm already on like halfway through season 2.
I love because series 2 is that just because I'm literally on series 4-5 now, but series 2 is the one where they start with the heat wave, right, with the traffic jam.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah. Just just so many stuff just remind me of child, because obviously I grew up in the noughties when it was going out, and stuff like the circle and the three fingers, and you put it below your waist and you have to punch them. That was such a classic, childhood memory of mine. And it's just, and there's no other. I don't think there's any other sitcom that has shown that, or at least I haven't seen any. And it's just so great to be sort of reminded of that. It's just so, and I've literally like each episode is about 20 minutes long, and it's just today I think I watched about 7 episodes in a row, and I was just like, oh god, what is my life? but it's really good. Also, I thought I'd mention just briefly Pachinko, which I think I mentioned a few weeks ago. It's on Apple TV Plus. It's a kind of Korean series. There's sort of a Japanese element to it as well. I won't say much about it, but I watched the last 2 episodes recently, and I have to say there are some of the best episodes of TV I've watched this year. Just utterly beautiful. It's basically a family saga that's sort of set across different timelines. So one timeline is set in the sort of the 1920s, 1930s, when Korea was occupied by Japan, and how lots of Koreans had to assimilate, and a lot of Koreans actually went to Japan to assimilate there. And it's basically about the family saga going from like the 1920s to the 1980s, I think. But it's a really beautifully told story, and I think maybe my favorite series of the year. And there's this one scene that features like one of my favorite songs of all time, and I've never heard it anywhere else. I think it's In the Aeroplane Over the Sea by Neutral Milk Hotel. It's not the Neutral Milk Hotel version, but it's a cover version that works so beautifully in one certain scene. I was just like tearing up completely, and it's just I just want to recommend it. Really, it's a really good series on Apple TV Plus. Is there anything else? I don't think so. I think that's about it.
Okay, cheers, you, Jess.
So this is the part where usually I'm like, I haven't watched anything, but I've actually watched quite a lot. So I'm just going to be really quick for each one. I watched a Korean series. It's on Netflix called Hellbound.
Nice.
It's
yes.
a dark thriller.
Is that the school one?
No, that's something else.
That's you're thinking of the zombie one.
Yeah.
Hellbound is like people from hell. Bit like demons from hell or something, isn't it?
Yeah, so people start getting visits from angels telling them that they're going to die in, say, 2 days, 5 years time. And then on that day, at that time, these like demon things appear and brutally kill them and basically make them suffer as much as possible before they're then sent to hell. And then there's these groups that are basically making people believe that the people who are going to hell are people who have sinned, and then they're using that to basically kind of take control of Korea. I don't know. It doesn't mention if it's actually happening elsewhere, which is a bit
What's
weird.
that on, Jess?
It's on Netflix. It's a Netflix series.
I don't have
It's only
Netflix.
6 episodes, and it has 97% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Nice.
So it's very, very good. It's
I need
very
to watch
gory.
that. Yeah.
Is it like practical effects or is it like CGI practical?
CGI. I think the first episode, because we didn't really know what to expect. We've seen a bit from the trailer. Very, very gory.
Cool.
And it jumps in timelines quite a bit.
It's funny because when it came out like I think a few months after Squid Game, and every headline was like, "This is the new Squid Game," because it's like like the only Korean, it's like the next Korean series. I don't think it became anything more than that, but yeah.
There is a lot of stuff like that we've been watching at the moment, and also a lot of films on our watch list, to the point where our Netflix started dubbing everything in Korean, and we had to switch it back every time I watched something. So that was fun.
Dubbing, hate dubbing.
It literally dubbed everything. I was like, great. But yeah, and then I've been watching an easy to watch thing, Superstore. So I started the first season of that. Love it. Hilarious. And the main actress was from one of my favorite shows, Ugly Betty. So
nice.
And then what else did I watch?
She-Hulk?
She-Hulk. Yes, She-Hulk. She-Hulk is I like it. I enjoy it if you don't have expectations of it, I think.
Yeah.
It's good though. It's good, but there's some bits that are just a bit like the last episode, the ending of it with
the twerking.
Was just like, okay.
Yeah.
Like, unnecessary, but okay. And yeah, apparently she's going to be in it now, like an actual Marvel character.
Yeah. I
found her annoying.
I'm getting sort of. I haven't started it yet, so this is probably presumptive, but I'm getting sort of a bit sort of superhero fatigue at the moment, to the point where I'm just like, okay, I finished this new. I mean, some of them are very good. Like I really enjoyed Hawkeye, and I enjoyed bits of Mrs. Marvel, but I'm not excited about it, if you know what I mean.
I'm excited for the Avengers films, the new ones that have been announced.
Oh, yeah.
Who's in it?
There's a lot of feminism in this.
What Avengers are in it? What Avengers are in the Avengers?
Well, it'll be like Spider-Man, Miss Marvel. Because there's going to be like Captain Marvel.
The new Hawkeye. So
yeah,
was Hawkeye.
Yeah.
Florence Pugh.
Florence Pugh, but she's like more of an enemy, isn't she? Or is she just?
Well, then they'll. I think because the popularity, like with Florence Pugh as well, and obviously people really liked Black Widow. I think usually she would be, but I think they're gonna. It's like the Thunderbolts movie that they've announced in the comics. Obviously, the Thunderbolts is almost like it is the equivalent to DC's The Suicide Squad, but I don't think they'll play it like that. I think they'll play it more safe, like, oh, these are good guys that are trying to save the day, whereas the comics
They're also bringing back Daredevil, aren't they? Is he going to be part of the new?
He's going to show up
Avengers?
apparently in She-Hulk. Apparently.
Oh, all right. Well, that would make sense, I guess.
The whole She-Hulk thing is it is supposed to be about was it like law?
Yeah, attorney
like,
law.
That's the whole rather than a superhero kind of thing. But I think there's also going to be a lot of like X-Men and Deadpool and.
Be interesting to see Deadpool in there. I don't know what they're going to do with X-Men because it doesn't make. Are they going to just bring them back or?
No, I think they're because you watched. Did you watch Miss Marvel? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
About half of it.
Oh, okay. Well, spoilers, Ewan, but no. Well, basically, they allude to the fact that Miss Marvel has like the gene, like a mutation in her. So they're basically saying that there's the more superheroes that are popping up have basically like the X gene.
Right.
So I think they're introducing it that way to say that like mutants are. Yeah.
That was the other thing I watched. New Mutants. I finally watched it. I was so excited for it, and they kept pushing it back and refilming and whatever. And then it came out, and the reviews were so bad. I was like, I can't watch it. Finally watched it, and I get it now. I get why the reviews were so bad.
There was one.
It's a really good cast, isn't it? It's like Maisie Williams, Anya Taylor-Joy.
But the accents,
Charlie's,
I couldn't tell for the first like 10 minutes where any of them were meant to be from. I was like, what is Maisie Williams and Charlie Heaton's accents? I was so confused.
And Anna Taylor-Joy's character was the only character I enjoyed in that film, but that's because like she had the most OP power. Like you didn't really need any of the others in there. She just has her sword.
Really get her whole power either. It was just kind of over the top.
Well, okay.
So, one last one that popped up because I could have sworn it was in the group chat. But has anyone seen Mad God?
No, I've heard really good things about it.
Yeah, I want to talk about that at some point.
I watched that. I watched it.
It's an interesting one.
Very
it's on Shudder, Jess.
Very existential. Great. 30 years making. I'd say my only criticism is that, and even the maker himself has said this, in that he doesn't think the story is probably as fleshed out as it should be, but I don't think it's a film where the story is the main front. I think the visuals especially are just
because he was mainly a special effects guy, wasn't he, prior to making this film? And a little interesting fact as well. He did this. He was going to do the special effects for Jurassic Park, the stop animation, and Steven Spielberg obviously saw the CGI T-Rex that they were like putting forward to say do it this way, and Steven Spielberg said like, "Oh, guess you're out of the job." And then he was like, "Oh no, don't you mean extinct?" Which is why that line is in Jurassic Park, because it's a reference. Nice. Little tidbit there for you.
Okay, so I think we'll be back next week. Hopefully, everyone's about. Maybe Sunday. With our episode 91, Wes Craven's New Nightmare. So that should be fun. Dan's Hot Pick is going to be the hatching from 2022. Is that got dragon eggs or something weird?
I think I've heard of that. I think it's quite a surreal one. I think women come out of the eggs.
Yeah, I can't wait to see it. But there's some colourful eggs. I know this.
I hope I haven't made that up. If I made that up,
watching it, none of that happens.
There is some eggs. What comes out the eggs, I don't know. But they're very colourful eggs, and I've wanted to watch it for quite a while. I think it's from Finland, maybe. Looking forward to watching that one. So it might be one I have to purchase. So if you want to follow us on Twitter, it's the Bones Horror Pod. If you want to email us, it's the boneshorrorpod@gmail.com. Instagram, Bones Horror Pod, and get involved. So we'll be back next week, I think. Episode 91. Christ, it's going well, isn't it? Getting towards episode 100. Right. I will thank you for listening. Thank you for watching, and we will see you next week with our episode 91 then. Wes Craven's New Nightmare. What a great name for a film. See you then. Bye.
See you later.